is equally encouraging. From all we can tell, he is a very thoughtful, collaborative leader in education. I have assured him of our collaboration because we know that if he succeeds, we all succeed, and especially our schools and our students will succeed. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our next superintendent, Mr. Terry Dade.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here this evening for RTA. You all, without a doubt, are the heart and soul of our district, and we're going to make sure that we remember that each and every day for the years to come. Like Dr. Urbanski said, I was just saying farewell to my region in Fairfax. I was able to meet with all of our leadership to say goodbye this morning, and just reminded them of our 4-year journey together there. And something I just want to make sure that you know about me is you'll always hear about my 3 big rocks, which are the core of my leadership. So I don't know if you've ever heard the story, but the professor gets in front of his 300 plus college course and puts a clear container up on the podium and puts 3 large rocks inside and asks the students, is this container full? And he asks for a show of hands, and about 90% of the auditorium raises their hands. Then he reaches under and pulls out a bag of pebbles and dumps those into the container and asks again, is this container full? The skeptical college kids are starting to get onto it, and about half of them raise their hand. Does it again with sand, and then with water, and then the container is actually full. But this I learned in my principal preparation program, always to be cognizant that if you don't make room for your 3 big rocks, the core of who you are, why you got into this profession, and what you hope to remember each and every day, you won't have room for those if you fill it with all of the other stuff. You'll hear me talk about all the other stuff as the static that keeps us unfocused from what matters the most, which is our students. So my 3 big rocks, one is absolutely, you've heard me, if you've ever seen me in writing or unfortunately on TV, which seems to be commonplace these days, is talking about family. So my first big rock in Region 3 and will be here is that we have to operate as a family here. I'm not for one group, I'm not for another group, I'm for kids. And I want to work with anyone who's willing to partner in this work to make sure that we're doing right by our students each and every day. Rock 2, which is going to be a bit more difficult here than it was in Fairfax, is to stay focused on teaching and learning. So it's been a lot of conversation over the past month or so about anything but teaching and learning when we see anything in press and things of that nature. So making sure that we stay uber focused on teaching and learning. And then 3, when I was interviewing for the position, I said over and over again to the board, to anyone who came out to the forum, that if you're looking for Superman to come in and solve all the concerns in the district, then I'm not your guy. So that 3rd rock is that we have to do this work through unsurpassed collaboration. So the family piece is, you can really argue as a family behind closed doors and have those disagreements, but we always leave that room for the best interest of our students. The unsurpassed collaboration piece is at the school building level, at the central office level and beyond, that we really do have to involve all stakeholders in this work and collaborate to make sure that we're moving forward. So you'll always hear those 3 rocks in whatever we do moving forward. So I hope you hold me accountable for that, You won't ever see me lose my cool in any setting. I always expect to model what I expect anyone else in our district to model in my interactions with folks. So all of that said, I know that you all are the heart and soul of what we do every day for kids. I'm hoping I'll see more smiles. You all only have a few more wake-ups before you start your summer vacation. So I know that we're ending a very long year, but also a very rewarding year here in Rochester. So I would love to figure out ways with Dr. Urbanski to figure out how we can really engage with one another, to hear what some concerns there might be currently in your school buildings and ideas that you have for moving the district forward. But then also, what are things that we need to absolutely remember and honor and treasure of the work that has been already put into place. So to come in and have all these new ideas without honoring folks who have been committed and dedicated to our community here in Rochester, who may have been a part of the community as students here in Rochester, would be, I would be terribly remiss to do so. So I'm looking forward to working with and alongside of you in the years to come. I'm looking forward to spending time in your school buildings. That is something that I can promise you, as I will not be a stranger in your buildings. If you go to @TDade on Twitter, I'm very active in schools because I feel like if we don't control some of the narrative that takes place in education, then we allow the negativity to really pervade everything that we do. So everything that you see in my social media is celebrating teachers, celebrating students, and celebrating all of the great work that we do each and every day. So I'm looking forward to showcasing you and your amazing students as we move forward. So Dr. Bansky, I don't know if we have any time for questions or what we can do from here.
Sure. You will have an opportunity to meet Superintendent Dade right after we leave this room and just go to the foyer. But we have time for a few questions. If there are questions, just go up to one of the microphones and either offer a question or maybe some advice or cautions. Anyone? Well, let me begin with a question, Superintendent Dade. What do you think? I know that you already indicated you may want to take some time to just observe and listen for a while to get a sense of the environment. But as you begin your leadership in a district, whether it's District 3 in Fairfax or the Rochester City School District, where do you see the biggest opportunities and the biggest challenges initially during your tenure?
So I'm thinking about some of the challenges that lie ahead. One is everyone has an opinion about what we should do to move forward. I say that with all of the humility in the world, but it's really difficult to navigate a report that's 80 plus pages, plus the state, plus different offices and things of that nature. So it's pretty difficult to navigate all of those pieces. And what I talk to my principals about in my tenure in Fairfax is our job as leaders is to figure out, we might feel like we have the best laid plans from central office, but we forget about the impact at the classroom level. So thinking about anything that we do moving forward, I absolutely challenge everyone who's on my team to think about, what does this mean for a classroom teacher? We may think that this is a great plan, but where's the professional development that might be needed? Where's the support that might be needed? And is this aligned across all 50 of our schools? So that's going to be probably the biggest challenge. I don't think it's going to take much time to sit and observe, because to be honest, haven't been given a whole lot of time, so there is a sense of urgency in making sure that we move forward with some of the recommendations in the Distinguished Educator Report, while also making sure that we're continuing the upward trajectory that you all are already a part of and proud of in the district. So I think that navigation of a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and then making sure that whatever we do, we're remembering what that means at the classroom level.
Hello, soon to be Dr. Dade. My name is Kristen Baskowitz. I'm the music teacher at 34 School. I was just wondering how important the arts and music are to you.
So the arts are absolutely critical, in my opinion. My first principalship in DC, we turned a public DC school into an arts immersion, arts integration and a Spanish immersion campus. So I saw the benefit of what arts could do for our students. I saw what art education can do for students who might not be provided that opportunity otherwise. And I see the benefit of arts and other opportunities to engage our students who may not be as excited about school without fulfilling that passion that they might have with theater, with instrument, things of that nature. So wholeheartedly support the arts. And look forward to seeing your classroom and some of the opportunities that we have here in the district. All right.
We also, hi, from School of the Arts, Brett Craddock. I'm wondering what is your stance on special education? We've had some issues with that, and where do you see special education in our schools?
So special education, critically important to make sure every student gets what they need to be successful. I do look at some of the numbers, and again, this is just looking at numbers. I do think that we might have an over-identification of special education students here. The numbers are quite high just based on what I've seen in other places. So really looking at making sure that we're putting in the supports early on to get our students what they need before they're identified for special education services. So looking closely at our multi-tiered systems of support, making sure that we have services and supports at the tier 1 and tier 2 level before our students are identified for special education. Then also making sure that we're not having disproportionality of overrepresentation of some groups in our special education courses. So strong proponent of special education. I just want to make sure that we are not getting dinged for non-compliance and other issues so that we can really focus on what we all want to do in this room, and that's serving our students in the best manner possible.
Also from School 34. My name is Maureen Duhan. I've been very fortunate to have been RTA Rep for 21 years. I'm also the RTA Special Ed Chairperson. So my first question was also on the idea of special education, and they're always trying to make cuts to the more restrictive environments such as the 8-to-1 to 2s, the 12-to-1 to 1s, which they have restored. So my first question is, what is your position, and you did kind of get at it a little bit, with the more restrictive environments for those students who may have behavioral issues or who may have extra learning issues that can't be addressed in a general education classroom? That's part one. And part two is, I'm so excited to hear you talk about arts integration. And at 34, we did have a very vibrant arts integration program, which was cut this year because our school day got changed from an early day to a late day. So if you could fix that, that'd be so nice. School 34.
So I understand that there's more than just School 34 that went through the change, so I can't make any promises there. With regards to least the spectrum of services, period, I think that we have to look closely at that to make sure that we're providing the least restrictive environment for every single child in the district. That said, that's not saying that I don't support some very restrictive environments for students who show that need. And I have seen the benefit of co-teaching models and those kind of models to make sure that we're supporting our students early on so that they're set up for success and not in a most restrictive environment for life. So I think we have to pay close attention to that full spectrum, that if we do have strong MTSS core teams in place, I would look to them as the experts to say, are we identifying students appropriately and placing them appropriately in our spectrum of services.
We don't have those core teams in place.
Okay, we need to.
Write that down.
Hi, Janet Bird. I'm at School 50. I'm wondering what you think about the cuts to librarians at the elementary level.
So our group yesterday with the ASAR asked about my opinion on budget cuts, and I couldn't tell you what I feel about the overall plan because I wasn't part of that process. So I can be clear that I don't want to cut anything. I can't say I would want to cut any group, but we know that we need more and not cuts in our schools to serve our students best. I just don't know the thought process behind the cuts for special education, library services, art programs, things of that nature. I just wasn't part of that process. Moving forward, we really do need to think about how do we grapple with something that I've asked the board to hold me accountable for. I want to see a reverse in the trend of losing students in Rochester. So someone asked me if I'm pro-charter or things of that nature. I'm pro-Rochester City Schools. So my job is to make sure that we have exceptional schools for every child and family that moves into our district, that is currently in our district, so that our families trust to send their students to our schools. And declining enrollment is going to impact budget. We have to turn that around, and the best way to add more to schools is to reverse that trend. So that's what a goal of mine is, not to compete with charter schools, but to really showcase the great things going on in our schools and really advocate for what we need to be successful and start to bring families back into Rochester City.
These will be the last two questions. Go ahead, please.
Okay, just a quick comment. Thomasina Ferguson, retiree, also vice chair for the substitute division and RTA Rep also. I commend you for your philosophy and collaboration. I think that's badly needed. And I know that your first rock is family, and I think that that's on the right track, because I know when I was teaching, that was really a challenge to get the parents involved, and maybe there are some creative things we can do to get them more involved, because I believe that will make it more successful if we could all work together, as opposed to this group or that group or that group. If we could all collaborate, that would be wonderful. So I commend you for that, so thank you.
Hi, Kevin Fager, RTA. What do you see the school district's legitimate role in breaking up the high concentration of poverty in the city of Rochester?
That is a difficult, I could get a second doctorate on that topic. That is a tough topic. I do believe I will never allow poverty to be the excuse for low achievement ever. And I know that we have to be uber cognizant of the challenges that poverty presents for our students and families each and every day. There's only so much that schools and the school system by itself can do to mitigate the impacts of poverty. There's things much broader like boundary areas, zoning areas, housing affordability that really contribute to some of the concerns that we have here in Rochester. So as we see businesses come and go, that impacts us at the school and school district level. So when I say family, and thank you for acknowledging that piece, one of the things I'm really working on with those outside of our direct Rochester City family are engaging in those stakeholders of, I'm really tired of hearing the negative press of, we need to do something about our schools, we need to do something about our teachers, without engaging in what can you do to help us move our district forward. So there's lots of players and lots of stakeholders that need to get involved in this work. And right now, it is a very negative conversation about us versus them that will change over these next few months. So if it continues to be us digging in and just taking all of that negativity on our shoulders, it's going to be hard for us to garner the support that we need to truly be successful. So one of the things that you will absolutely notice is that they will ask me a question to try to bait me into negativity, and I immediately talk about our kids, immediately talk about our teachers, and immediately talk about the great things that are going on each and every day here in Rochester City. And I look forward to partnering with you or whoever is on the other side of that conversation to see how they can help us move forward rather than just pointing fingers. The easiest thing you can do in the world is point the finger at someone else and talk about what they could do better. It's much harder to look in the mirror and see what you can do to contribute to the success. So that's my goal, is to truly engage our broader community as a family to move all of us forward as a collective. So thank you again for being here this evening. I'm sincerely looking forward to working with you all and seeing all the great things that you do each and every day for our kiddos. Thanks again.